I'll chat about this because so the video that came out this week, the clips of last week, to demonstrate kind of what we were shown by Karen and like making the links and stuff, I just created a new one to create the clip. So I thought, well, let's make a virtual math room. So this is virtual math room, like math manipulatives. So all you'd have to do is click on, and then it would take you right to the place where you want to get whatever it might be. So it's just there, it's all there. Like this one's the clock, takes you right to the clock. It's all math learning stuff, like what we've shown you in the past. Math Learning Center, it's my favorite site. I like this clock. I really like the clock with the fractions, like, so the clock with the geared hands, and then you can add another clock with the fractions. I love it. I can't wait to be back in the class and be using some of this stuff. So anyways, this is, we just thought we would share this virtual board with you, because then you can just take the board, remove, remove me, and then put yourself in. So that's in the show notes. So you have a math board or a manipulative board to go to when you're ready to give your students math.
Awesome. Sally, I'm hoping that if you're at Arrow next year, I get to work with you, because
yay!
Because I'm moving from teaching, because I'm English to FI, and the math is going to English. So I've been out of math for a few years. So I'm like, hopefully I can be partnered up with Sally.
Oh, I love that. I love teaching math. It's my favorite, which is funny because like I had no interest in math when I was younger. Like I literally like did not want to take in high school, no interest. It just didn't, like, I don't know. I didn't see it as creative, and now I totally see it as creative. Like when I became a teacher, I was like, I don't know how to teach math. I'm gonna have to figure this out. And so then the more I learned about math, the more I'm like, this is the best subject to teach. So I would love to work with you. That would be great.
Awesome.
Start dropping the hints early.
Yeah. If that's where I am next, I don't know like what can happen, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we ready to get started, Kate?
Yep, I think so. I was just going to add something about when you were showing these math manipulatives, especially that clock tool. I was using it with my son today, and because he was doing something on time from his teacher, and so I sent her the link for it, and she was so grateful. Like sometimes I think we assume that people know that this stuff is out there, and they don't, and then because it's been like in our life for so long, and then you forget. So if you're at a school and you're sharing, like that is like an easy, quick share that people are like, she's like, I'm putting it in the link for everybody tomorrow. And I was like, okay. I felt bad that I hadn't ever shared that with her, you know, but.
I know exactly what you mean, Kate, because like, I just assume that everybody knows what I know, right? Like,
yeah.
Or I assume that we've already talked about that because so many different teachers that we just assume we've already shared it with that teacher. And then like,
I know.
You don't know who you've talked to about.
I know. And then you don't sound like an old person just repeating the same story 10 times. So then you're like, it's hard.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Sally, are you doing the chat today, or is Kate?
I think we're both.
Shelby is at.
It's been okay, yeah. So I think we're good. Thank you. So
because there's one that Shelby has a question there about how to get your Bitmoji connection or your show notes.
Oh yeah, we have the link at the end, and we will be sharing that again. It's just like a bit.ly, and it's /math images, and we'll share it again at the end. And that's kind of, we've compiled all of anything we've shared within that document, so you'll be able to get it at the end. So thank you everybody for joining. We have 15 here today. I think that's amazing. We were thinking we were going to get none. We know report cards are due tomorrow, and it's a stressful time. So thank you for taking the time out to join us. So Kate and I are here with junior office hours every week, as you know, and we have a couple visitors this week that we're looking forward to hearing from. Such great ideas. So we're going to just start off with the land acknowledgement.
Yeah, so that's me. I'm going to share the land acknowledgement this week. So I'm going to start by giving a little bit of background here. So the St. Clair River is important to many people today. It's used for recreation, shipping, and supports many different species of wildlife and plants. Before this land was called Canada, the St. Clair River was just as important. It was extremely important for transportation and sustenance for the Indigenous people that called this land home for thousands of years. At one end of the river, you will find Aamjiwnaang First Nation. In the mid-18th century, Aamjiwnaang territory covered a vast expanse of land on both sides of the waterway between Lakes Huron and Erie. Aamjiwnaang is an Ojibwe word indicating an important gathering place that had been used by First Nation for millennia. This gathering place was located at the foot of Lake Huron. According to the Aamjiwnaang website, Aamjiwnaang means at the spawning stream. Traveling down the St. Clair River, you will find Bekedronong First Nation. The word Bekedronong means where the waters divide. The northernmost point of Bekedronong was also an important meeting place that was used by First Nations people, specifically the Chippewa, Odawa, and Potawatomi. If you look at the map of Bekedronong or Walpole Island, you will see that it's not just one island, but a group of islands that have been made up of millions of years of sediment being built by the river. So now I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations. These Indigenous nations, known as the Anishinaabe and the Napau, agreed through their ancestral languages to the mutual sharing of the land with obligations and responsibilities to the environment. Today, these responsibilities and obligations extend to all peoples. An important aspect of the Territorial Acknowledgement is a call to action to make a commitment. In this extended version of the LKDSB Territorial Acknowledgement, we are being called to take on the responsibilities and obligations to the environment.
Thanks, Kate.
Mm-hmm.
So last week we had Karen Dargetz-Wu sharing with us, and she was also sharing about, she was sharing about the Bitmoji class, and like we just showed in the beginning there, that math manipulatives and creating links within the Bitmoji. So the clip that came out this week is based just on like how to make all those clips in case you, or links within the Bitmoji classroom and how to create that classroom in case you missed it. And these clips can all be found within Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or the elementary remote learning site through the blog. So today's agenda, we're going to start with a new tool. It's going to be really quick because we have two visitors today. We have Lynn, who is Lori. I keep mixing up Lynn with Lori. I don't know why. Lori, who is sharing with us, and then we have Gretchen joining us. And then Kate, if we have time, we're going to share a couple sites. If not, we'll save that for next week. Yeah. And then hopefully a few minutes for hot topics today. So we're going to get started right away with the new tool. So this was thanks to Christine. Christine emailed Kate and I asking about volume and nets, and so we thought of sharing this site with her, and Kate and I were talking about, and we're like, well, we should just share it with everybody. So I am going to stop presenting here if I can figure it out. And then I'm going to go to that site. There we go. Got it. So it's NCTM Illuminations. This is an incredible site. However, a lot of it's blocked up. It used to be completely open. A lot of it's blocked up. If you have a membership, you can access it. I don't have a membership, but I would like one. Maybe our boss, Ben, would buy one for us to share. So anyways, there are some things that are accessible to everybody though. So we're going to show those things. So if you go here, there are some lessons that you could access, and there are interactives. And so the interactives is what we're going to show you. So if you went to all interactives, you would see that there are a lot. So if you go down here, keep scrolling down, there's all these pages full of interactives. And so I picked out just a few to show you. So the first one, I really like this one. It can be used for many things like surface area, volume, nets. It's all adjustable. So you can see here that this has been created, and you can, with a width of 4, depth of 5, and height of 3. And if you just click on it, oops, it will close up to show that that net can create that. but it also, and you just click to open again. You can also like talk about how to find the area of just one of these and then talk about surface area. Or you could talk about volume, and you can slowly build, or you can build with rows and talk about the first layer and what would the volume be there, and then go on to figure out the total volume. Click it, type in the volume here, and have students make guesses and check it. You can also create the size that you want. So if we wanted one that was like this, it would create it for us. So it's kind of, it's a good thing. I feel like now I know 2 things I wanted to mention today was that Diane had emailed us about like, not everybody can access synchronous learning when you're doing it live. So I think one thing to think about is like screen recording. You know how to use Screencastify. So if you were to Screencastify and give a lesson demonstrating with this, I think it would be awesome. And then it's saved as a video, and you could just share that with your class. So those kids that do have some connection online can watch that video and learn, not necessarily at the same time as like you're having an online session, but a live session, but it could be at another time. There was something else it'll come to me. So that's one thing within that site. Kate found these geometric solids, so you can pick the solid that you want. Here it shows solid. If you want to see it as a net, you can have it open up as a net.
And if it's a solid, you can actually rotate it around to see the 3D parts of it. It is pretty neat.
How do we rotate it? Oh, look, it clicks the edges.
Edges, yeah, I saw that too yesterday. It was a new tool for me, so I don't know. I think if you click on the face, maybe. Yeah. Click and drag. I don't know.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You click it and you hold it.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
neat way to count the edges and stuff, right?
Yeah. So interactive.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so then let's go to cube nets. So these ones, I don't like the time part thing, but there's a thing that you can, it shows you all the examples of possible nets, and you have to click and decide which ones you think might turn into one. Can this be formed into a net? Let's say yes, and then it's going to test it out, and it doesn't. Okay, so that's another one. And then an adjustable spinner, like, I thought that was pretty cool. I've seen it before, but I feel like it's on the smartboard, and I haven't found one not outside of that. So here is another one that you can totally adjust to make it how you want it.
And Gwendolyn's just saying in the chat there, I think it was her, just popped up about these are great tools when we get back in the classroom if we can't share manipulatives, right?
Yeah. I think
So
that bringing their own device, right, is going to be really important, because of what about sharing devices as well? So some things to think about, the points. Okay, so that's all I'm going to show you in there, but know that there's lots to explore, and you'll find something that will work for you at another point. Okay, so now we are going to go. So Kate, I'm going to still control the slides here. Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so our teacher this week that we're spotlighting is Lori Meyer, and there she is. Hi, Lori. And she's a teacher at Errol Road and Sarnia, and she teaches English, and actually I don't even know what else you teach too. FI students, right?
Arts and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Yeah.
But your job is changing next year, which you were sharing earlier, right? Yeah. Because of the math change. So that's kind of neat for you to see those tools for sure.
Yeah, great.
And actually, I thought about sharing Lori's stuff with you guys today because I saw her post on Twitter about how she's trying to sort of wrap up her end of year stuff that you would maybe normally do in the school year. So do you want to just walk us through like what your thoughts were behind all of this?
Right. So I know a lot of my students were, having a hard time through the last couple months and feeling pretty sad about the school year ending on this note. So I wanted to be able to make something for them to reflect back on, the good times that we had through our school year, and kind of send them off with a positive message, and also give them some sort of keepsake that they could keep in their drive.
So I should say thanks for joining us. I'm sorry. I meant to say
thanks for having me. Thank you.
And so is this like something that you're giving, that you've made, that you're giving to each kid, or each kid gets a copy?
Yeah.
Or
So I just went into Google Slides and made a memory book using Google Slides. I used a lot of the tricks that I learned when I learned how to make the Bitmoji classroom for inserting the background and putting in the images. And I then made it so you can see how it says your name, so students can edit it. So each student is getting a copy on Google Classroom, and then they can edit the slideshow to make their own personalized memory book.
nice. Do you want to move ahead there, Sally? So just some things that they can click in here. And so when you gave it to each kid, do they have a certain part they have to fill in every day, or what was your expectation for that? Like, how did you share it with them?
Yeah, I left, because I've had sort of, you know, different participation, I left it a little bit more open-ended. I posted it and told them we're going to try to work through it through the next 3 weeks. So I'm just encouraging them to do, you know, a few pages each week, and then hopefully the last week they'll be able to finish them up. A few of my students on my meet said, is it okay if I don't finish it, you know, by the end of school, and I finish it in the summer? And I said, that's fine. And they wanted to know, should they return it to me? And I said, of course, return it to me, turn it in so I can see, you know, what you did, and send you a message, and I'll return it back to you. So just encouraging them to work away at it over the next 3 weeks. Yeah.
And like you said, because you're having drop off, which I know we've heard from lots of teachers that I can understand why you sent it now, because there might be even more drop off, right? So trying to get kids, you know, continuing a little project maybe to the end of the year is a good idea. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So
and
this
then,
is,
yeah, so this page I wanted to do something where they could record some memories, and then I just actually finished making some flip grids for next week, and I'm hoping that they will refer to their memories that they've written about, and then go on their flip grid and record a little message for their classmates, talking about 1 or 2 of their favorite memories from when we were together during the school year. And then you can string all the flip grids together in a mixed tape to make a video. So, and then download the video
really cute.
and send it out. So kind of building on it.
So Lori, can I just ask a question? So when you made this like in slides, right?
Yes.
And then do you like save this as a background then? Like, so say this image here, is that saved as put in as the background?
The notebook is saved as the background, and then everything else was placed on top.
Okay. And so if the kids want to go, they just got to click, like I can't click right now because I'm in present.
Yeah. So this is where it says memory. Each of those is a text box. So they just need to click on it, and then they can fill in there.
Okay.
Now, Lori was saying, you know, she was saying to me yesterday, she's included quite a few pages here, if you want to scroll through a little bit. This is cute, but that they didn't, if they wanted to skip a page, they could, right? And just delete it from their slideshow.
Right. They could more personalize it if they wanted to skip, not do a certain page, or they could also add their own pages in if they wanted to.
Did you hear, sorry, this just reminded me, did you hear Starbucks is closing like 100 stores?
No, I didn't.
I just heard that I've just seen it on the news, and so your little Starbucks outfit reminds me.
So that's my co-teacher, so I tried to make sure, even though this was a project for me, I tried to make sure that I still included her as part of our memories. And at the end, you'll see that there's a video, a personal video message from each of us to the students.
Great costumes. Good memories for the kids.
It is cute.
We got a lot of Starbucks gift cards for Christmas.
So distance learning. Oh, did you see that? See those smiley faces to send?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So just some things, right, to get their attention throughout. I tried to personalize it. So this is from one of my classes. I have 2 different classes. So that's a pic collage from our mustache day that we posted on Arrow Road Facebook page. And then for my other class, I posted a different picture. So just some things to kind of personalize it along the way and remind them of you know, the fun, the good times that we had.
What is
Mhm.
it right here? Is it a GIF or how did you get that in there?
I think I found a page where the gifts were free, and then I downloaded it and then put it in.
Placed it in. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Can we play this?
Yeah, so earlier in the year, at the beginning of quarantine, Kendra, my co-teacher, actually made this jib jab, and we never ended up posting it. So when I was making this, I thought, oh man, I need to put this in our memory book.
Yeah, it's super funny.
I'm in my house, quarantining, organizing, deep cleaning. Number of times I washed my hands today, 36. I watch so much TV, I finished Netflix. I work from home, I talk on Zoom. Kids are yelling, I'm hiding in the bathroom. Digging in my freezer like a deep sea diver. Cooking fish sticks and popsicles like I'm Food MacGyver. It might be boring, it's not forever. We stay at home, in this together.
Amazing.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so just things to get their attention and
Yeah.
hopefully make them smile a little bit. Yeah.
I
Keep
think
them engaged,
really
right?
good reflection page too. Like we realized that things were really important in life. What did you learn? Because we all have learned a lot during this time of being in quarantine and
Right.
different perspective on things. So like
Yeah.
something really significant that's happening in their lives that hasn't happened in all of our lives, right? So
Yeah.
most of our lives.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and I
This
said
is
to them in
kinda
our,
neat.
oh, go ahead, Kate.
Sorry, it's kind of neat too because you can, as Sally said, get their perspective, and it would be interesting to see their takeaway from it on what they found difficult and what we maybe thought was easy, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've started to look through some of them at different pages they finished to see the responses.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this looks like a page you would do in the summer, right? Or like, at the end of the year for the summer.
Yeah, and we worked on growth goals all through the year, and I love cactuses. My room is decorated with them, and our first growth goals of the years was on a cactus, and we talked about being resilient and growing, and so that was a little, personal touch I put in there, and something we've been practicing and was hoping they would continue doing.
Nice.
Yeah, this is great. I love your cactus analogy.
Yeah. So this page is actually, I used the Control K feature of inserting links to the images. So for example, like Kendra there reading is also linked to, if kids click on it, yeah, it does say to click the images to go to links. It's like a summer reading list for grades 3 to 5. So just to give them some ideas, there's actually, there's different age groups because I thought that one was good for, there's different grade reading lists there. And then the play games goes to like a website that has a bunch of card games and dice games, I think, too.
Sweet.
So obviously,
This is so great.
I am going to message parents so they know. The art goes to the best artist, Cassie Stevens. She does all these like tutorial videos step by step to show how to make art. She has a ton of stuff on there. So that's a nice little link for them if they want to do art through the summer. I have the coding websites, and then I think the soccer ball. I'm linked to nature scavenger hunt. I found one that was like printable. Just another little thing to do. I know it's kind of hard to find when you're just zooming through, but it's a bingo scavenger hunt. And then
these are all really great things to share with kids, right?
Yeah, and then the Me with the Ice Cream is linked to a recipe for making homemade like ice cream in the baggie,
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, so I just tried to find different things that they would be able to do to carry on with their learning in the summer.
That is so great. Oh, I'm clicking on a link. I meant to scroll through. Sorry. Am I out of present mode now, or?
No, you're just.
There.
Oh no!
Oh no, you closed.
I am.
There it is.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm not sure what's showing all this stuff up
Do
here.
you want to click at the next one?
Beyond, like the next slide.
Yeah, just like the one of all the kids on there.
Okay, this one?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just a collage of all your kids there during the year, obviously. This was stuff that happened during the year.
Yeah, all these pictures were on my Seesaw account, so I just downloaded them to my computer and inserted them. Took a little bit of time, but I think it's worth it for them to have that.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
Pantry.
And again, just some of our work that we did, bulletin boards and stuff.
Oh, that's interesting, the multiplication chart. I could see building that together, like as you build an understanding, like, so when we were in the Heather Work workshops, they were talking about building, like when you are looking at multiplication, like you're building certain facts in a certain order to help them understand and make the connections between the facts. So I think that would be a fun thing to do, like build a big one together and then like,
Yeah,
you,
so actually that was Kendra's, and that's what they did. Like all those cards up there were made by students, and they, yeah, did them in a particular order. It took like a while to actually get that fully made. Yeah,
so,
I told her I'm doing it next year.
Kendra attended that workshop, so
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. So it's
I
kind of
just
like,
think it's really neat that you made the connection back to like being in the building, right? Which is really nice for them to remember.
Yeah.
That most of the year was still in the building.
Yes. Yeah, it was, right? So we want to go back and remember that.
so good.
And so these are just little thoughts. I didn't actually even get to play these when you shared it with me.
Yeah, it's just our final words, kind of, you know, I think everyone gives that last day of school talk where you say how proud you are of them, and, you know, that we kind of acknowledged how our year maybe didn't go as planned, but they still, you know, persevered and did a great job, and that we can't wait to see them next year.
And you were saying you might be able to get some of your kids next year because of the way that you're teaching.
Yeah, I probably have about half of them again. So
yeah, that is nice.
It is.
I'm not going to play those videos because they're for your class.
And
I started playing this one and I started getting tears in my eyes. I don't know.
Yeah, those were just a couple of our Facebook ones that we did as a staff for our students. So I thought I'd pop those in.
It's really nice.
Those are nice, right? Because this year is one for the books for sure, and people will forget parts of what happened. So
yeah,
I like that you
we talked about on our meet that, you know, maybe in grade 8 they can, you know, go back in their drive and find this and remember about the things they thought and what happened, you know, this year.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely can't go on the burn pile.
No.
This is awesome.
So Kate, do you want me to go on or do you want me to play one?
I'm just looking. Okay, so I think this is our last slide. Now you did say that for the kids you included a blank one, which we didn't include here just in case they wanted to add to it. But that's great, Lori. Thanks so much for sharing. This gave everybody like some good ideas, I think, just on how to sort of close out the year. And I really like how you were sharing that you were thinking of putting some of those memory clips into like a flip grid. Mixtape, I don't know that many people even know what that is. Like your kids wouldn't, right? But I think that's a nice way to sort of end your year off, right, in some fashion, because I know that teachers now that report cards are sort of I think on the back side people are looking to how to close out this year. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Kate, are those is this linked in then our show notes?
I haven't yet, just because I wanted to talk to Lori about that, but I will put parts. I think I'm going to put parts of it in.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to put all of it in, just parts of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lori.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have Gretchen Sands Gamble also with us today. So glad she's here. I don't know if you're aware or not, but June is National Indigenous Month. And on the 21st, the summer solstice is also National Indigenous Peoples Day. So I'm excited for you to hear everything that she has created and shared. Such great resources, just like what Lori just shared with us. Really awesome sharing. So she's going to be sharing this outdoor learning commons with us and some good thinking about how to share this stuff. So Gretchen, I'm going to stop sharing and let you take over.
Alrighty, let me see
Welcome,
what I
and
need
for
here.
joining us.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I think my dog might start barking. Just one second. Okay, so yeah, June 21st. Wait a minute, I guess I should start by introducing myself. So my name is Gretchen Sands-Gimbel. My role in the board is the Elementary Indigenous Education Special Projects teacher. So I come to your classrooms and I help you to make sure you're embedding Indigenous perspectives into your everyday classroom. I help with curriculum support too, and I love coming to visit. So I can visit your Google Meets as well. So just something to keep in mind. I'm going to talk to you today about amplifying many voices in your classroom. But first, I just want to say that June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and it is a day for all Canadians to recognize and celebrate the unique heritage, diverse cultures, and outstanding contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. So I just need to put my dog out. I'm really sorry. He's barking here. Here, go on. So
Dogs.
dogs,
I know, they're a thing.
Be back in. He'll be back in here in a second. So just to quickly just go over, so Indigenous people, like the term Indigenous is kind of an umbrella term for First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. And so within the First Nation, just got home. The dogs can't handle it. Within the First Nation, that's where you hear, so like Ojibwe or the Potawatomi Nation or the Cree. So there are many nations that fall under the First Nations too. So just a little background on that. So I'm just gonna share my screen here. Let me figure this out again. It's like every time I forget how to do it.
Gretchen, I meant to, you meant to share a little bit after I acknowledged the territorial agreement. And I think we kind of cut you off there. Actually, never got started. But I just wanted, you were sharing something with me about why, how that all started. Can you just share that quick?
Yeah. So with the Territorial Acknowledgement, that is something that has been going on for thousands of years here. And so when Indigenous people would go to visit in another nation's territory, they would acknowledge the people there and acknowledge the land, because there was like a relationship too between the people and the land. It wasn't like it was two separate kind of entities kind of a thing. There was relationship there. So as visitors, they would thank the people who are visiting for having them there and just acknowledge that they are visiting on that land. And so when we do the territorial acknowledgement, it's a good time we do it to acknowledge the people who have been living here for thousands of years, right? And the way that the land was originally used, and how we and all of us here live where we live or go to school where we go to school because of treaties, right? And so as treaty people who are still in those treaties, those obligations and responsibilities to take care of the land extend to all of us, because that relationship with the land and taking care of the land and sharing the land was a part of those original treaties. So that's just a little bit of background knowledge, why we say the land acknowledgement. And I liked that it was mentioned that there's a part that should be a commitment in there. So maybe it's a commitment for us to ensure we are sharing the accurate history of the people whose traditional territory we are on, or to take care of the land in a certain way. There should be action taken, and, spoken about in that land acknowledgement.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. So, all right, so I'm going to talk about amplifying many voices, and it's not, so my role is Elementary Indigenous Education Special Projects teacher. I am from Bakedranong, which is also known as Walpole Island, as you now know, and I am Anishinaabe. And so a lot of the work that I do is around ensuring that we are amplifying Indigenous voices in our schools. So I'm just going to start with a little bit of background about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, because a lot of the work that we do now as teachers and as educators is to ensure that we are sharing truth. So in the early 90s, residential school survivors started coming forward with their stories about what happened to them in residential school. So this was in the early 1990s, okay? And so in 2006, a commission was formed, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and that was formed by the government to ensure that these stories were recorded and heard and that some kind of action would be taken. So through interviewing over 6,500 residential school survivors and their families, in 2015, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission final report was published. And so that report included the stories that were recorded, but it also included 94 calls to action. And those are calls to action for all Canadians to put into action to work towards reconciliation. So for as teachers, in these calls to action, there are parts that are specifically for like the justice system or the health system. There's some about education. This one here, 63.3, I feel is really important for us as teachers because it speaks to building student, and I like to say student and teacher capacity because I feel like that's some work that we really need to do too. So building student and teacher capacity for intercultural understanding, empathy, and mutual respect. Okay, and so if you think about the truth and reconciliation, in order for us to work toward that reconciliation, we need to make sure that we are sharing the truth, okay? And it's really exciting because we as teachers, it's important for us to make sure that we are sharing the accurate and true history. And it's a really good time, right? I always like to say this is hard work and might be uncomfortable work. But we need to take comfort in knowing that we are doing something good and something that is important. And we know as teachers that if we just keep doing the same thing we've always done, or if we don't challenge students, there isn't going to be real positive change happening. And so if we just keep doing the same thing we've always done, we're not going to get change that we need. And it's obviously not working. So we need to lean into that discomfort, and there will be uncomfortable conversations because the relationship between Canada and the Indigenous people of this land, or the relationship between various groups in Canada is uncomfortable. It's not nice, and that's just how it is, and we need to be sharing that truth. Okay, so something that I always like to ask, and this is a good reflection time for you, is whose voice has traditionally been shared in schools? Okay, whose voice are you sharing, and whose voice needs to be amplified? Okay, so
These are good, Gretchen, good questions.
Yeah, and it's something that we probably, like a lot of people might not even have had to consider before, right? And so in our society, there are voices, there are people who are marginalized, and that means that their voices and their experience are kind of pushed to the side. They're not centered in the classroom, they're not centered in the media, and our role is now to make sure that we are centering those voices. Okay, so whose voice needs to be amplified? Okay.
Well, and it is great to have you in our board because you're a person that people can reach out to connect us with those voices that are missing, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I know that there are many teachers who are taking this work on and who are asking these questions to people who they work with, and it's important for everybody to speak up, I want to share this infographic. So take a look at it. I'll give you a few seconds to look at it and gather your thoughts. And maybe in the chat or on the microphone, you can share maybe your thoughts about it. I can't see the chat. I can't have it up or else I totally forget what I'm saying. So let me know if there's anything in there.
Yeah, we definitely can say if there's anything. This is interesting to me.
Yes, this is neat. Animals. That is make up for everybody else, like is more than everybody else accumulated.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know what, this reminds me actually of a speaker I heard who spoke at the Union and United Nations, I should say, and she was from Africa, and she was talking about all the books she read were about apple trees, and she's like, we don't have apple trees, we have mango trees.
Mhm.
And there's no books on mango trees here, and it
Yeah.
just reminds me of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like interesting, the mirrors.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the chat. Well,
Oh.
Pam says, what do children see as their future? She just put that in now.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking like the mirrors, like, so what you read is a reflection of, right? Like, so like, I think, so First Nations children, if they're not hearing those books that are written from people who are First Nation, they're not
Yeah.
seeing themselves reflected within the learning, right?
Yeah.
They don't see themselves in that context, right? Like
Mhm.
like growing up, I never have had one First Nation teacher,
Mhm.
right? So that does that speak volumes as to like, is there a career there for a First Nation child?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I think this is really like the mirror is so important, and like
Yeah.
23 books for First Nations children.
Yeah. If you look at the mirrors too, right? Okay, so the little boy on the right, the white boy here, he sees, you know, like all these really great reflections of him. You know, you can be any astronaut, you can be a king. There's all these really great things. And as the mirror gets smaller and smaller, you can notice too that it starts to get damaged and it's broken, right? And so that kind of shows not only do First Nations children or Latinx children see themselves so minimally in the resources that are used, they're also damaging, you know, they could be stereotypes. And so that's just another way to look at it. It's 1% of the books, and often it's not a very positive representation as well. So this 1% here, you know, maybe that, what does that do for the belief that comes from this boy over here, this white boy, about Indigenous children? If all he's seeing is, you know, 23 books and some of them are full of stereotypes, right? So yeah, something we need to really think about in our classrooms.
I was just going to say, if I can, Gretchen, that
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of the First Nation books we even do have in the schools are often like a historical perspective. Do you know what I mean? They're great teaching tools to teach about the history, but I don't have very many First Nations books that are set in a modern day setting. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah. And I'm glad that Sally
some characters
too, I'm glad Sally put out that she's never had an Indigenous teacher. You know, like I started school on Walpole Island and I went to grade 2 there, and then I went to public school, and I'd never had an Indigenous teacher or even a Black teacher like on my schooling, you know, and you know, what kind of a message does that send? And even to, you know, anybody who even worked in the school at all.
Like I had a kindergarten teacher at Amjanong where I attended kindergarten, but she was not First Nation either.
Yeah.
So like,
so that's, you know, it's not an overt message, but I guess it is, you know, it is an overt message. It just makes sense to all the students, you know, like not just saying to, you know, Indigenous students, right? Like there's no Indigenous teachers here, but that's the message that's to everybody.
And so Gretchen, can I ask, like, because this is obviously books that were published, like, is that something that is being pushed to change, or is it, because Pam's sharing there about like the books that you're choosing, because it is more difficult and time consuming to find something that gives a variety of characters or whatever, people in the book, then like they are out there. You just have to find them, right?
Yeah, you just have to find them. You have to take the time to do it. And there are lots of book lists on Google about, you know, anti-racist books for kids or books by Indigenous authors for kids. You just have to, you know, search them up. And people ask me, because I get asked a lot, is this book appropriate for my class? And I don't mind that question at all. And sometimes I have to search it up on Google too. Like what I do is I try to find what nation the author is from. Like first I try to find out if they are Indigenous, and then sometimes, and it's important to share that with the kids too, like the author is from the Cree Nation, right? And something that I myself do. I look it up, and there are the list, and I just Google it, and you can find that information. Goodminds.com is a good website.
What was it again?
Goodminds.com. I'll type it in the chat.
We'll put that in the show notes.
I think Gretchen just froze up.
I think she just froze up too.
While we're waiting for her to come back, I can share that I asked Gretchen, so when we were preparing for a session like a couple weeks ago and we were looking for videos, I found this amazing video, and it was like really good, but then it was, it had the term Eskimo in it, and it's not appropriate. And I talked to Gretchen about it, and she's like, so if you were to use that video and share it with students, you would be exposing them to that word, and that word's not appropriate. And so it's just like you wouldn't share an inappropriate word in any book, right, kind of thing. And so like, then is that a good thing to be sharing? Even though it's a really good resource, the word wasn't appropriate. So it was good learning for that conversation that I was able to have with Gretchen. So reaching out.
And that's like, and we like that.
Oh no.
She freezed up again.
I know, shoot.
Okay.
Okay.
It's off the internet.
Oh, there you go. You're good now. Go.
Am I good?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. All right. Can you still see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So as teachers, we are sending the message that is okay for students to use that word, right? And that's, we don't use that word. And that's just, and kids take what we tell them, especially at the young age, as the absolute truth.
Yeah.
As I'm finding with my own
Yeah,
kids.
so true. But Gretchen, do you think that there comes a point when students are a little bit older? Like I know some teachers who read a book, I can't remember what it was, and it had it was about, it was like Civil War time in the States, and it had some nasty words about Black people, and but he was using it for like an education purpose to talk about that time in history. Yeah, okay.
I say don't use it. Don't use that
Yeah.
word. Not a word for.
Well, that's what my thoughts were, but and because the kids take that and they hear what they want to hear, right?
Yeah. And so you say this word is in this book. I'm not going to say it because I know how hurtful and violent this word is, and I'm making the choice not to say it.
Right.
That's it. And I hear that sometimes, like to say, well, that's representative of the time, right? But we do know better now, so we're not choosing to say that.
No, for sure. Okay.
Okay. So by amplifying marginalized voices, so that might be Indigenous voices or the voices of Black people or voices of people from the LGBTQ community, we're challenging stereotypes, and we're ensuring that students experience diverse perspectives, which does take it back to that call to action 63.3. We're building that capacity for empathy and mutual respect. We're making space for marginalized people to share their voices and their stories. And if you think about it, for so long, Indigenous people haven't had control over how they were represented in the media or how they're represented in the books that we read at school, right? And so by giving that space, we are, allowing marginalized people to have that control in a place where they haven't had control before. We're helping all students to feel a sense of belonging in our schools. And I have to tell a really cool story, and I keep looking at the time. I'm going to tell a quick story here. Emily, the principal at Basenquit, sent me an email this week that, so they've been doing a lot of work there the past 2 years, including Ojibwe language and inviting community members from Kettle and Stony Point to come in. And you know, really doing hard work to include a lot of Indigenous voices in their school. And so at the end of this, like just recently, a little boy who goes there, and he's from Kettle and Stony Point. His family, they made a slideshow. I'll share it right now. And it's all about him. And it's about how he dances in the powwow. And he sent all these pictures in. And, you know, this is something that, because that family feels so supported and welcome and that they belong there, that this is something that they felt really comfortable with sharing with the staff and the school. Like it was sent out to Emily and the teacher to be sent out to the school to share, right? And so that is something that is so awesome that they felt, you know, that sense of belonging there.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I that made me feel so happy. There was something else I wanted to say here, but I forget what it was. Maybe it'll come back to me. Okay, so.
Oh no.
Frozen again. So how do we amplify these marginalized voices? So I think she's going to talk about bringing those voices into the classroom. And so trying to find those books, trying to find opportunities for those voices to be included in.
And community members, right? Like bringing community members.
Yeah, I like how Besanquet, so if you think about the location of Emily's school, they are close to Kettle and Stony Point. So I like how they were connecting with that local community. So if it was somebody in Sarnia, they're more likely to connect with Ampinong, and Wallaceburg area, they're more likely to connect with Pequejanon. Oh, she's completely out now. So she was going to show, so if you seen that slide that I showed in the beginning of her outdoor learning commons. So it had links to all the 4 different communities. So I think that will be really nice because she's already told us that she's going to share a link to many resources she's collected for like different articles, but then also her outdoor learning commons. So then that is available to you as a resource to go to include into your classrooms.
Okay, am I back?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see how this goes. My son's in a Google Meet right now too at the same time, and I think that's why this is happening. And we haven't had that problem before. But okay, so
we were talking about amplifying voices. Like, so how do we amplify? And I just kind of talked about that. You might be sharing about connecting with individual communities that are close to the school that is inviting those voices in.
Yeah.
And then I said that you're going to share your outdoor learnings comment. That's what.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes again. Okay. Alrighty. So, oh yeah, we have to normalize it, right? So it's not just around Indigenous Peoples Day that the kids see a book read about Indigenous people, or, you know, when there are things in the news about Black people. It needs to be all the time so that it is normalized. Okay. So let's see. All right, so this is something that Nicole Hooper made, and it's a whole book list about amplifying many voices. And so lots of different books, there's lots of pages to it. I'll make sure, oh yeah, this is in my my resource list that got added to the show notes. So it's in there. And there's lots of pages. And the way that she saw this was, it was for teachers to be able to go.
Uh-oh. She cut out again.
Yeah, I have sent her a way that she can get online by phone. We'll see if she tries that. That might be more reliable. I texted her.
Slide deck for that.
I was with Gretchen yesterday when she was sharing this, and I think the message she was wanting to say is that this resource here is more for educators to look and for them to learn about the books and decide which ones will be appropriate for their class at that right time. So then you could start there and make the decision which ones will speak mostly to your class about that. So there's lots there in Indigenous voices, but LGBT plus and Black history, Black children stories too. So it's quite the diverse list. And I think they're working on the having French options as well. So they're hunting down on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
And
just
then
taking over the screen share because I have an image of her.
Here she is, yeah.
Okay. Gretchen, are you here?
Oh, I thought that was her, so that was just you.
Sorry. So I've added in this image on the slide. So we'll just go back to and talk about this. So here, this is another slide that she's shared with you. It's her outdoor learning commons, and it's going to have some links. Pam, did you want to speak to these?
Yeah, so all of them link to different resources, just like in a Bitmoji classroom, but the big piece is that it's all connected to being the outdoors. So getting connected to the land and showing that appreciation to it. So thinking about that land acknowledgement piece, so that we're going back to that. And I think for junior classrooms, there's a lot of really great resources there. And it's not just the social studies context either. There's a lot of opportunities for art and literacy to go along with that too.
And it looks like there's some links here for the National Indigenous Peoples Day on June 21st, which is good, right? Because we've heard about that, but maybe we don't know why that day or some other information we'd like to know about it.
I think I'm back in. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Who knows if I'm here to stay? Okay.
Well, we've got 6 minutes left, Gretchen. So we were actually showing them your outdoor learning commons, the image of it. We don't have the links, but
okay, yeah,
it's in there. That's going to be in the links that you've shared with us.
Okay, yeah. So I made sure to include the information about the 4 First Nations that are in our area too. So yeah, right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that will take you to their websites. There are, down here in the left corner, there's, that's a beading loom. So there's a video there. My friend Tina, she talks about beading, and there's actually a lesson in there that you can go to that uses the Matthews app and the website too. So about beading and relating it to the student's own heritage too, though. The Water is Life poster, that will take you to a lesson with artwork by Christy Belcourt. Am I still in?
Yep, we can hear you. You're doing
good. And so within our school board, there are two Indigenous languages taught. So one is the Lenape language, or the Delaware language. And so there's counting to Delaware. If you look down here where it says 1, 2, 3, and then behind this National Indigenous Peoples Day, there's an Ojibwe video there too. And yeah, there's lots of Ojibwe things in there. There's a video down here that says powwow, and that has some contemporary music on there with a powwow video. So it's a really cool thing, because a lot of students know people in that video because it was filmed at the Six Nations powwow. So let's see here. There's other resources too that I put on the resource list that I'll be sharing. So there are things on Seesaw on there that you can use in your classroom any time of the year, but you can use them right now just to highlight Indigenous Peoples Day, okay? Because it's really important for us to really normalize, right? To make it so that the marginalized voices that have been pushed to the side are brought to the center all the time, so kids are used to seeing and hearing different hearing the voices of marginalized people.
Yes. Well, thank you, Gretchen, for sharing all that.
I just want to what holds the value in your learning community, and how can you make sure that you are showing what has value, that there are lots of voices that have value. Okay. So thank you for having me. And if you need to email me, you can send me an email, and I have no problem answering any questions. Sometimes it might take me a day or two to get back, but I will get back to you. So yeah, miigwech, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you,
Gretchen.
You're giving us and all the learning.
Yeah. Lots of great resources.
Thank you.
We're going to skip the sharing sites. We might do that next week, and we're actually going to skip hot topics, other than we want to take a moment to say that next week is going to be our last session. Our last junior office hour session. So we just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us over the last weeks of this, and all the learning. We've learned so much from everybody, and it's just been so great. So next week will be our last session, and we're hoping to talk about prepping for next year and the things that we might want to keep in mind. So as you leave today and in the next week coming up to our next session, we're hoping that this can be a collaborative session. And so in the meantime, we're hoping that you can come, not having anything prepared, but things in your mind, just thinking about like, you know, what are the little things that are could be little hurdles that we could do some preparation for now, and what do you think, what are you thinking about, so then we can share those ideas, because there's power in that sharing. And also if there's things that you're looking for that you feel like, yeah, I don't know where that's going to go and what I'm going to do about that, if you could bring those too, so then that can help also program department think of some ideas as to what should be offered before in the launch session in the summer, so that you know, this can go as smoothly as possible for everybody next year.
Mm-hmm.
And so just a reminder, next week, Thursday at 2. And then here is that bit.ly with all the links from today. And Gretchen, I see, is shared in the link there. That's her document link, and that's also encompassed within that bit.ly math images. That's just one link we had used once, and so we just added the show notes to that. So it's the first thing that you pull up. It'll see Gretchen's link, and then there's also some other things in there from today that will help
So if you haven't gone to that link yet, that has everything that we've been sharing for the past, I would say, like 4 weeks.
Maybe, yeah, maybe even longer.
Yeah, maybe even a bit longer, because I think this is our 9th session, but
yeah.
So you'll see some stuff you can go back and have a look at.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah, tough time to come right now. I know there's lots of demands on you. So hope to see everybody next week. Oh, and I wanted to mention Diane, she emailed about the Bitmoji Pixton, and I know Kate did talk to our superintendent about that. And so, you know, there are things there. At one point, there was a whole bunch of.
Oh no, we can't hear you. I don't know what happened. Yes, I did talk to them about adding. You can add an app to the app catalog. That was what I got. I forget who was asking me about that. Maybe Gwendolyn. You can add an app to the app catalog, but I asked about the Bitmoji thing, and it wasn't a firm yes or no. It was open for discussion. So that discussion hasn't happened yet about the Bitmoji, but I think it could be a possibility for sure. So if there's other apps that you think should be, that could even be part of next week's sharing, right? Is that if we end up going remotely next year at some point, like what more apps do you think the kids need at home? Just little things like that make life easier for everybody.
Like there's some provincially funded ones that are available to all students in Ontario. So I put the initials, if that's correct, Rod, is that right? What's in the OSPEC? So that's where I go to find if there's something it's licensed to all Ontario students. And sometimes you can find some.
It's OSAPAC.
OSAPAC.
There we go. Thank you. Okay, so we got to go because Rod's busy. So
you know what? I'm blaming the whole report card thing. Like too many teachers are doing report cards. Gretchen had issues. Sally's audio disappeared. I'm blaming that. That's the only common denominator. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, everybody.